Hi guys, welcome to G Whiskey. My name is Jeff. Now this is a channel where I offer my thoughts, my opinions, and some scores on various whiskeys that I try. Now if that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, why don't we jump into our review. Today we're going to be looking at the Old Pulteney 15. So stick around. I've always had kind of a soft spot for Old Pulteney. It's a really unique whiskey, and it's one that I latched onto quite early in my, whiskey journey. Really unique character, really unique profile. The distillery itself sits pretty far north in the highlands, and it's right by the sea. So you have like these light, bright, clean highland flavors, but you also have these salty maritime notes in there as well. So it's a really characterful whiskey, and it's one that, again, I've always loved. I remember I used to buy a lot of the old 12-year-old, maybe about 10 years ago. I thought it was a really nice budget dram. It was like buttery and salty and bright and clean. Really, really delicious stuff. I did notice a bit of a drop in quality in that one over the years, but still good stuff. I also really enjoyed the 17 and the 21. So basically their whole core range was solid. And in retrospect, I probably should have spent a little bit more time with the 17-year-old and the 21-year-old. I bought a lot of the 12. I think I only had a couple bottles of 17 and maybe one bottle of 21. 17 and 21 were absolutely delicious. Really nice whiskeys. But as it turns out, the company didn't have enough stock to keep them going. So in 2017, they pulled them from the shelves. And obviously since then, the price has been climbing and climbing. I don't know where it's at now, but I'm not sure that it's worth it. But yeah, those were really nice whiskeys, and I was kind of sad to see them go. Luckily, a year later in 2018, Old Pulteney came out with a new core range, and they switched things up a little bit for this one. So the new lineup was, you had a no age statement in there, you had a re-release of the 12-year-old, then you had a 15 and an 18-year-old. The 18-year-old was taking over for the Old 21, and the 15 was a replacement for the Old 17. Now, as is often the case with Scotch whiskey, they'll bring down the age statement, but not necessarily the price tag, and that's what happened here. So the 15 was probably about the same price as the Old 17 back in the day. And I wasn't too happy about that, and I wasn't very excited to try it at first. But then I found out that it was a sherried 15. And if you guys know me, you know I love my sherried whiskey. So the 15 was the first in the new core range that I really wanted to try. I wanted to see what a touch of first fill oloroso sherry cask would do to the Pulteney character. You know, with sherry, you've got these sort of sweet, fruity notes, and then Pulteney, you have like these bright, clean, maritime notes. And I wanted to see how the two would come together. So with that said, why don't you kindly leave a like, and we'll jump into our review. Now we've got some pretty decent specs here. We've got 46%, we've got non-chill filtered, and we have natural color. Now, Pulteney as a brand is not always consistent with these things, so it is nice to have 3 checks up there. Now for the color of the whiskey, we don't have a particularly dark whiskey here. I know it's getting a little bit low, so it might be hard for you to make out, but for a sherried whiskey, it's not very dark, which is kind of interesting. Beyond that, you have your classic Pulteney bottle, squat bottle here. You have an okay color scheme, it's fine. They should be mentioning chill filtration and colorant or the lack thereof on the label. They don't. Another thing I find kind of odd about this bottle is they don't actually use the words sherry or oloroso anywhere on the label. Now they do talk about their casks here. They'll say matured in ex-bourbon and Spanish oak casks. Of course, your Spanish oak casks are going to be your sherry casks, but I think they should probably put the word sherry or oloroso somewhere on the label. First of all, they're really sought after flavors in the whiskey world, and secondly, it's more of an indicator of the kind of flavors you can expect from the whiskey, but I guess they didn't feel the need to do that. Aside from that, I do like the look of these Pulteney bottles. I think they're interesting, I think they're unique, I think they command some attention. So for presentation, I'll give it 3.5 out of 5. I also like how they kind of updated the look of the bottle. So before the rebranding in 2018, you had kind of like this transparent logo on here, it's like stuck on. They swapped that out for a full-blown label, so I think it's a little bit classier, a little bit more modern, and it's also easier to read. So overall, good look. I think it's well done. All right, let's try the nose here. It's good. This is just classic Pulteney. Bright, fresh, clean, crisp. It's a little bit oaky. You have that salty sea air. You have sultanas, vanilla, honey, some apple pie in here. I really like how the sherry finish is not dominant. It's really well integrated, and it kind of like, it's not a background player, but it's not at the fore. It doesn't overshadow that crisp, clean, vibrant freshness that you always get from Pulteney. All right, let's try the palate. All right, oily texture here. Still on those classic Pulteney notes. So, you know, salty sea air, salt, salted toffee. There's also kind of like a citrus touch, like an orange touch, maybe like orange juice in that direction. You've also got some driftwood if you've ever snacked on driftwood. And you have some chocolate notes, so like Terry's chocolate orange, that's in there too. Now let's try the finish. Oh, really nice. Milk chocolate. You still have some of like citrus notes, some orange notes, so like orange hard candy, tangerines. You have cinnamon and baking spices in here. You still have that salted toffee note, Christmas cake, vanilla. A lot going on, medium in length and really nice complexity. Now you've probably gleaned by now that I do actually quite like this whiskey, and I definitely do, but I will say this, I didn't always love it. When I first popped the bottle, I thought it was a little bit off. I didn't find it particularly balanced. I found the flavors kind of sharp. I didn't get the full 15 years of age. And it stayed like that for maybe the first third of the bottle. I don't think it's just me. I really do think this whiskey needs time to open up. After the first third of the bottle went down, I really started getting into it. It felt like the whiskey found its balance, the flavors settled in a little bit more, and I got more age. But yeah, that first third of the bottle was a little bit rough. Now that it has opened up, I'm really liking it. I really like the flavors in this. It's got some good complexity, and I like the sherried touch. Now again, the marketing doesn't really talk about sherry. You kind of have to do some deep dives in order to find out that it is actually ex-oloroso sherry butts that they use. On the website and on the bottle, it just says Spanish oak casks. But it is a sherried finish and it's very gentle. Maybe that's why they don't want to advertise it too much. But I like that gentle touch. Sherry is a very dominant flavor profile. It's very sweet and sometimes it can really just take over a whiskey. And luckily that's not the case here. The sherry here is really gentle and it still holds on to that, bright, clean Pulteney profile as I mentioned earlier. In terms of comparing this to the old 17, I can honestly say that I like it about as much. And I know that's probably going to be blasphemy to some people, but I really think the 15 works well. I like that fruity touch. It's still Pulteney first and fruity second, but the flavors come together really nicely. I think it culminates into something really special. And for score, I'm going to give this one an 87. And I actually wanted to go a little bit higher at first. I wanted to give it 88 because I really, really do like it. I think it's such a delicious whiskey, but I think it's really good now. And like I said, at the beginning of the bottle, I didn't really think so. I found it sharper than it needed to be. The flavors hadn't really settled in and I didn't get the full effect of the age. So for that reason, I did dock it a point and I brought it down to 87, which is still a really high score. And beyond just a high score, I'll also say that this is very good in terms of reachability. It's a whiskey that I do find myself coming back to pretty often, so there is that. Overall, it's an absolutely delicious whiskey and I do recommend it. Just remember that if you buy a bottle, make sure to give it a little bit of time, let it interact with the air a little bit, let it open up before you really dig into it. For value, I do think this is a reasonably good value. Now, it's not cheap for a 15-year-old. It's not crazy expensive either, but you are definitely getting something very unique for the money. As I said, you're getting those classic Pulteney flavors and you're also getting sort of like that fruity touch added in. I think it adds an extra dimension and I do think it makes the whiskey more interesting. So if that sounds good to you, if that sounds like something you want to try, absolutely give it a go at least once. And that'll be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Do me a solid, hit subscribe down below, click the little bell icon and smash the like. Also, I want to hear from you, so have you tried Old Pulteney 15? Have you tried the new core range? How does it compare to the old core range? Let me know. And finally, I want to hear from you down in the comments what you would like to see me review next, and I'll be sure to keep that in mind for my next review. Bye, guys.